Welcome, educators. Let's dive into one of the most dynamic and, honestly, one of the most important parts of the AP seminar course, the student presentations. This is where all that research comes to life, and your role in making sure it all goes smoothly is, well, it's absolutely critical.
So, first things first, let's talk about the stakes. And believe me, they are high. Just look at this breakdown. The two performance tasks, which of course include the presentations that you'll be scoring, make up a massive 55% of a student's final AP score. Think about that. This is the single biggest area where you have direct control, which makes it a huge opportunity to help your students lock in those points.
So what is your role in all this, really? Well, you're wearing a lot of hats. You're part coach, part administrator, and part official assessor. And learning how to juggle all three of those roles is the absolute key to helping your students shine while keeping the assessment fair and square.
To make it all manageable, we've broken it down into a 5-phase playbook. We're going to cover everything from the early planning stages in coaching all the way to presentation day, scoring, and yeah, the super important new guidelines on authenticity.
Okay, phase one. It is all about planning. And I really can't stress this enough. Success here begins long before any student even thinks about stepping up to the front of the room. Good, solid, early planning is it's non-negotiable.
First order of business. Get these dates on your calendar right now. That April 30th student deadline is set in stone, and so is your May 10th scoring deadline. You've got to work backward from these dates to build your schedule. And really think about it. How many students do you have? Bigger classes are going to need a serious chunk of time for both the team and individual presentations.
And remember, you're juggling two totally different beasts here. You've got the team multimedia presentation, the TMP, for groups of 3 to 5 students, which runs about 8 to 10 minutes. And then you have the individual multimedia presentation, the IMP. That's a solo act with a tighter 6 to 8 minute window. And you, my friend, are scoring both of them.
Now let's talk about some core duties you have to get right, no exceptions. Schedule with plenty of buffer time, and for your own sanity, collect all the slide decks and media files beforehand. And listen up, because this next one is a biggie. You must video record every single presentation and every single oral defense. Whether it's on a school camera or recorded through Zoom, it has to be done. And you have to store those recordings safely for a full academic year. Why? In case the College Board comes calling for an audit.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about your role as coach. This is a really delicate balancing act. The goal is to give your students the skills to succeed, not to give them the answers or tell them what to say.
The College Board draws a very, very bright line in the sand here. What you should do is teach presentation skills, give them the official oral defense questions to practice with, and keep an eye on their progress. What you absolutely cannot do is edit their work, give them specific articles, or, and this is a big one, tip them off to which defense question they're going to get. Your feedback has to stay general.
So what can you do? You can show them what greatness looks like. Using official resources like these exemplars and tip sheets is fantastic teaching. Show them how to use their slides as talking points, not as a teleprompter. Coach them on how to design each slide to have one clear, powerful focus.
When you're coaching, point them right back to the rubric. I mean, look at this quote from the design row. It makes it so clear that a top score isn't about fancy transitions or cool fonts. It's about whether the visuals actually help the argument land. The question to ask them is simple. Does this chart make your point clearer? That's the goal.
And it's the exact same story for performance. How they deliver it matters a lot. We're talking vocal variety, good eye contact, real energy. That's what the rubric means by a dynamic execution. They need to understand this is a performance of their research, and they need to own that stage.
All right, it's game day, the day of the presentations. Your classroom is no longer just a classroom. It is now a formal, secure testing environment, and every little detail is going to matter to make sure it's fair for every single student.
I like to think about presentation day with the 3 R's. First up, rules. You're basically a proctor now, so you got to shut down any and all distractions. Second, recording. The camera has to be on and recording for the whole thing, presentation and defense. And third, reflection. Be ready to pivot straight into that oral defense the second they finish talking.
So that oral defense, it's a really critical piece of the puzzle. You'll ask one question to each student one-on-one. Now, they have the full list of possible questions so they can prepare, but they have no idea which one you're going to pick. And here's a pro tip for the team projects. Tell the whole team to prep the answers together.
This is a best practice because you can, and you probably should, ask one student about another student's research to see how well they collaborated.
Okay, once the last presentation is in the can, you put on your final hat. You are now the official scorer. This is a huge responsibility, and yeah, it comes with a hard and fast deadline.
And let's be super clear about this. You're not just jotting down scores on a piece of paper. You have to use the official rubrics right inside the AP Digital Portfolio to enter and submit every score. And again, that May 10th deadline is not a suggestion. It's non-negotiable.
So what's the game plan? It's a pretty straightforward workflow. First, you've got to complete the required online scoring training. Then, you'll set up the student teams for the TMP inside the digital portfolio. After that, you score each presentation row by row right against that rubric. And finally, you hit submit before the deadline. Follow that process and you're golden.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most modern responsibility, making sure the work is authentic. Especially now, in the age of generative AI, this is a huge part of upholding the integrity of the whole program.
You are now required to make what's called an attestation in the digital portfolio. Basically, this is your official signature, your seal of approval, saying that you believe the student's work is their own. It is a mandatory step. If you don't do it for their written work, the student gets a 0 on that component. The stakes really are that high.
Now, to help you make that call with confidence, the College Board has given you a tool, Required Checkpoints. For the first one, the student gives you a source log. You have a quick chat with them about their research, and then you check the box that they completed it. This is your first line of defense to make sure they're actually doing the work. So what do you tell your students about AI? Well, the line is pretty bright. Using it as a tool to brainstorm ideas or find authors to look up, that can be okay. But using it to write summaries, generate outlines, or draft any part of their actual paper, that is absolutely not okay. You have to be crystal clear with them on this.
So when you put it all together, the planning, the coaching, the managing, scoring, and attesting, you're doing so much more than just getting through another AP season. You're giving yourself the tools to confidently guide your students through a really complex, high-stakes project. And by doing that, you're making sure they not only get the scores they've worked for, but that they're building real-world skills that are going to last them a lifetime.